Feeling lost in the maze of CPS? Desperate to get your child back? You're not alone. Countless parents face the heart-wrenching reality of family separation. The legal system can be overwhelming, but there's hope.
Now, here's the key. Faith, that's how you win a 6-month hearing.
Thank you.
If you do all of those things, you're going to blow your social worker's mind, you're going to blow your attorney's mind, and you're going to blow away the judge.
With attorney Vincent W. Davis, a dedicated legal expert with 39 years of experience, committed to helping families like yours. Join his weekly live Q&A on Zoom, where you can ask your burning questions about CPS cases. Get the knowledge and strategies you need to fight for your child's return.
Alrighty, good evening everyone. This is a question and answer session for school, SKOOL, and this is the CPS school.
Are you ready to take control of your family's future? Join our school community for free to access weekly live Q&A sessions, or participate as a one-time guest. Don't let fear hold you back. Take the first step towards reuniting your family. Join us now.
Good morning. It's Monday, January 13th, the year 2025. And God bless that I'm alive. You know, I'm very thankful every day that I wake up and I try to start your day over again. Every day to me is a new beginning. And I'm glad you've found me, How to Fight CPS. I'm your host, Bob Pace, and please hang on to your children. It's very, very hard going through what has happened to you in CPS. Now, I think the most of you that are listening are good parents, and you care about your family, and it's been disrupted by what I call the child protection systems everywhere, every state, every county, even in every country. I've been doing this podcast for a long time. I've been doing it for 15 months, almost a year and a half. And I've talked to close to 800 people. That's a lot of people I talk to. It seems like every day I meet somebody new. And they're great people that come in here and talk and share their story and try to help one another. This room has become a family place where people call me uncle, or they know that this is safe to come here. I want to say, God bless you all, you people, because we're going through so much in this world. I think every generation does. Every generation does. And thank you for the love. Abula comment. That was sweet. You're in this room to find out how to fight CPS and how to get your children back, or how to hang on to your children. And, I'm not a lawyer. I work for a lawyer who just did that brief introduction. But what he does, he has a he has a big heart, likes to help you all. But I'm also a loving father, a husband who has 41 years of marriage and helped to raise 6 beautiful children, what I consider beautiful. My oldest is in his 40s. I have 2 girls in their 30s, and I have 3 children in their 20s. And one of those 3 is still in his teens. Yes, I have a young and old family, and I don't feel old. Every day I wake up with vigor. Um, my day starts at dawn, the dawn patrol. At 4 a.m., I go to the beach and check out the surf. It's a daily ritual that I've been doing for all my life. And if the surf is up, I go get my board and go out. And I try to go out early in the morning. So by the time I'm out of the water at 7 a.m. and the crowd will start to build. And people go off to work. But I love the ocean. I love walking to the beach. I love living by the ocean. My heart goes out to all those individuals fighting the fires. It's sad, but this morning the winds are up. The Santa Ana blowing are in. It's blowing offshore. And I'm really worried about the fires. Those fires are horrible, but what makes them so hard is they have hurricane winds, 80, 100-mile-an-hour winds. And if you took if you're at a campfire, and let's say you took a trash can lid, and both your hands, you waved the lid back and forth, and you did it as hard as you can, what would happen to your fire? It would burn the coals faster. The fire would double or triple in size. And that's what's happening. The fires are being fanned. And it's hard, even though they got the manpower, the air power, we have all the technology. It's hard because the fires hit a neighborhood and it jumped from one house to the other. It would blow over a mile. These coals would blow in the air. And the way the houses are constructed, a lot of them are old structures. And the attics are dry. And these coals get up underneath the eaves into vent holes. So it keeps the heat off your house. And so they're sucked in. And when they land in your attic, they sit on wood that is so old that it starts up. And once your attic is on fire, everything below it's going to be on fire and burned. Everything burns. Things melt. And I know it's a real tragic experience. So my prayers go out that the firemen can put out the fires. They're composed of volunteers from the federal and the state. They're also composed of inmates at prisons and the National Guard. But when you have so many structures that have burned to the ground, and I'm talking modern day structures, you would never think that America or McDonald's would burn to the ground, but they did at Starbucks. There's just shells of buildings left in in areas where there's just small towns and stuff. See, for most of you listeners, LA is a huge place, but LA, the city, is a small place. But there's so many cities next to LA that LA goes for 100 miles in every direction. And there's communities after communities after communities. Now, you want to know what this has to do with CPS. Well, I'm really afraid what's going to happen. Just like it happened in the hurricanes. When families are displaced and lose their home, the Child Protection Agency is so corrupt. They're going to go after your children and say you're not putting them in a safe place to stay. You are neglecting your children, which is not the case. There are going to be cases. They'll come up, I know, in LA County, because LA County is one of the bad counties in the country. What I mean by bad, these CPS workers, do all this for money. It's $1 trillion business. Yes, there are good CPS workers. There's good CPS. Now, when I'm talking about the child protection system, it's a government entity in every state, every county in the United States. Also in the world, there's also CPSs in every country. And in the United States, Congress has mandated that a branch of social services protects their children from neglect and abuse. But what has happened is the system has turned rogue. It's being abused from within. Not all places are bad, but the places I talked of, the 800 people I talked to, including myself, and I was in Orange County, and I know firsthand how bad and how awful. And the way that they're structured and the way that they are helping is not good. You see, they're supposed to protect their children from neglect and abuse, but every day over 1,000 kids go unreported that are being abused. Why is not the CPS agency looking at them? Why are they looking at families that are low income, minorities, like the Native American Indians or the blacks? We all are immigrants. At one time or another, we all were immigrants. The Native American Indians were the first to come via the land bridge from Asia and settle. They settled in Canada, and they were called the First Nation people. The indigenous people in Canada are called the First Nation. In North America, they're called Native American Indians. You see, the word Indian derived from Christopher Columbus, who's down in the West Indies. That's off, Puerto Rico and Cuba and Virgin, all those places. He thought he was over in India, where all the great spices and stuff was. So he called the indigenous people Indians. Well, that kind of portrayed to the indigenous people in the United States. So these people had families, and he settled, and they were off the land. They believed in a spirit. They tried to, these different cultures tried to intermingle and things is. But it seems like with all society, it seems like the people that are more superior suppress the people that are not superior. So the first group to come in the United States were the Vikings, and then followed by the Europeans, the Portuguese, the English, the French, the Dutch, all the European countries over there. They all wanted to come to the United States for a new way of life. And, people were settling in the United States. And one of the first cases of child abuse came up in the 1600s, where a boy was treated abusively. And in those days, they didn't have what CPS is known today. That's why CPS says there's 3 periods of child protection. There's child protection from the 1600s to 1875. And why they picked 1875 is that's when the latest child abuse was the Native Indian children. And see, in 1875, Indians were being placed on reservations. So bad. The Cherokee from the Florida area was moved to Oklahoma to try the farm in an area that isn't so great. All the Indians were being placed on reservations. And the sad thing was they're trying to break their spirit. So they thought by rounding up all the children and taking them to private schools, they could wipe out the Native Indian race. And they abused those children. Where was the Child Protection Agency there? The children's hair was cut off. They weren't allowed to wear their native clothing. They weren't allowed to speak their native language, and not allowed to speak their culture, not able to do their culture. And they weren't returned to the parents. Now, this went on to the next time period from 1875 to 1962. We had societies that tried to help out protect our children. There were the sweatshops in the 20s of children put into work under terrible conditions and paid very little. Children have always been used and treated badly. And I have no idea why they picked 62, because it wasn't until 1978 when the Indian Child Welfare Act was passed, where Native American Indian children were protected. You see, when a Native American Indian children was picked up, they were adopted right away. They were never returned to their families. Now this law of 1978 says they must be returned to Indian families if they're Indian children. What makes an Indian child? Well, they should be at least 0.25% with Indian blood. And they should be registered with one of the 548 recognized tribes by the federal government. If they are registered or could be registered, and they have that 25% bloodline, then the Indian children are turned over to the Indian reservations, and they in turn will put the children into families that help reunify the children back to the family. You see, there's something called reunification, and that got lost, and it really hurt really bad in 1997 when Bill Clinton signed into law the Assentive Act, which primarily said it was taking too long for family reunification. We need to speed that up and have them adopted. So they said any child protection agency or system that has a child adopted into foster care will get an extra bonus on top of the money they're already getting for that child. You see, the federal government has no restraints on where the money goes. In fact, the federal government has a big problem with money, and maybe that's why President-elect Trump is appointing Elon Musk to check out government wasting and government spending, how they're spending. I mean, when the Navy turns in an invoice for $15,000 for a toilet seat, and I'm not talking about the ones that are in jet planes. I'm talking about the common toilet seat you and I sit on. They'll turn in an invoice for $15,000, and the government will pay it, no questions asked. The government has so much wasteful spending. It is terrible how they spend money. It is so terrible how they spend wasted money. If they just look how they were spending them, they wouldn't go bankrupt every 6 months and be in debt. Now, I'm kind of anxious and excited about the new administration. I hope they're able to do something about the child protection system because it's broken. It's broken in every state, every county, every country. It's broken because they found a way to make money off it. And I'm talking lots of money. That's what the incentive is. Now, not all CPS systems are bad. Not all social workers are bad. But when you have 1,000 children every day go unreported, and then you have another 1,000 children that are rounded up that should not have been rounded up. And I know firsthand experience because my children were not in imminent danger. They were in school. They were not in imminent danger. But they were taken right away. You see, when a case is open in CPS, the first thing that they do is that they want to accept what the layperson or the professional is called in about. You see, that's how they're alerted. They're alerted by lay people or professionals. Lay people or professionals. And these lay peoples where a lot of the problems stem from. I know firsthand. My wife's parents were one of those lay people that repeatedly called in on me and my wife for 5 years. And that was soon after I lost my job. You see, CPS and lay people like to attack people that are down and out. I mean, losing a job is a tragic thing for anybody, but for me, it was my world. I had worked for 45 years. I'd purchased several homes, and my latest home was being appraised at close to $2 million. I had bought it for $850,000, and it rose up that much in spite of the years I was living there. 10 years, it seemed like. Or 20 years. Yeah, 20 years. From 2004 to 2014, that's 10, and 2024, almost 20 years. You know, you love your home, and it's so terrible to watch people lose their homes in those fires. One day they're there, and the next day they're gone. And the sad part is insurance. Now, I was lucky to have insurance on my home. But I understand insurance in California has been getting very difficult and very costly because of all the fires and earthquakes that we have, the mudslides and the fires. That's what primary California has, is fires and mudslides and earthquakes. We don't have too many hurricanes. People on the East Coast have your hurricanes. On the Gulf Coast, they have your hurricanes. They have the tidal surges. They have heavy rains and so forth. In the central part of the United States, the northern part has torrential snowstorms. Climate changing is changing. And it's a natural phenomenon. I don't think people are understanding about climate change. It's going to occur. Just like when the dinosaurs were killed off from a tropical climate to a cold climate. And that was brought on by a drastic change. Now, ours has been slowly. The oceans are rising. Because why? The polar caps are melting. But that's all part of natural evolution. You see, God intended us to go through changes all life. Hey, look, you guys, I'm taking a time out. I'm going for a walk. I'll come back and we can address the problem. If people did that more often, there'd be less fights, less divorces. Things build up in people's sides, and CPS is one of them. CPS is become an agency that is corrupt. And it's because we have no board of supervisors or board of directors. We have no governor. We have Human and Health Services. Now, what is the Department of Human and Health Services, the federal government? I think we have a new person that's going to be elected to that, or I guess approved to do that. Now, the U.S. Department of Housing and Urban Development that's supposed to help out families there. But the Children's Bureau is a federal agency that works to improve the lives of children and families through program that reduces child abuse and child neglect. Now, the reason why I'm doing this different tangent is I'm trying to do something new for people to listen or watch the shows recorded. Now, again, I use CPS, and I talk about the child protection system. Now, what it does is supposed to investigate allegations of child abuse or neglect, is supposed to provide services to family, such as safety plans, in-home monitoring and supervision. It removes children from the custody of parents or legal guardians in emergency or if a assisted plan is not feasible. Now, it seems like the standard operation procedure of CPS is to remove children automatically. Now, CPS is called when a child is being physically abused, such as shaking a baby whose brain's developing, beating a child, and that can be anything, or burned. Those are physical abuse, being burned, beating a child, or shaking a child. Also, if a child emotional abuse, such as putting down a child, bullying, verbal, such as excessive yelled at, or belittled, or name calling. It is so hard when people yell at each other. I'm bad at that too. I'm bad at that too. And it's hard because you're at the heat of the argument and you're talking, or you're trying to talk to your wife and your wife's trying, and nothing's being accomplished. But you should never, ever belittle a child or do any name calling. Now, if a child's not being provided with adequate food, clothing, shelter, or medical care, that is a form of abuse. That's a form of abuse or neglect. That's really neglect. That's a form of neglect. Now, what might happen after CPS is called, CPS may close the investigation. They may transfer the case to a different unit depending on the case, and they may take the case to court. Now, it seems like 99% of the time they take the case to court. There's something called a settlement conference. I know they have it in divorce. When you want to get a divorce, you're supposed to go to a settlement conference, see if you can settle it, because divorce is not the answer. You two were in love with each other. You grew in love, and you had children, and you wanted to take care of your children. And so somehow you guys have drifted apart. A settlement conference is when you don't want to get the courts involved. It's the most easiest to do there. Good morning. Hello, can you hear me all right?
Yes.
Okay, who do I have the pleasure of talking to, and where are you located?
My name is Enola Williams, and I'm from Indiana, from Scottsburg, Indiana.
Good to meet you. From Scottsdale, Indiana. And your name again is?
Enola.
Noah. That's a biblical name, I think, right?
It's like the Enola Gay, the airplane.
Oh, I was thinking of Noah, the man that saved the world by building an ark.
Oh, no, not quite.
Not quite. Okay. But no, I know about that airplane, but I'm so glad you're calling me from Indiana. How's the weather in Indiana?
Horrible. It's getting a lot better now. It's warmer today, but there's a lot of snow still.
Well, I trade you our California fires for your snow.
Oh yes, I've heard. I've been seeing about that. That's horrible. I'm sorry. I hope things change quickly for you guys.
Yeah, it is really, really hard. And a forest fire in the middle of a city is a hard thing to battle. We always see forest fires out in the wilderness area, and maybe a small building or structure will get wiped out. But when you have houses, see, in California, the law between a home is only 5 feet between each other, because land is so precious that you can actually open up your kitchen window and shake your hand with your neighbor in his house. His wall becomes your wall for your yard and stuff. They have what's called a minimum 5 foot setback. Well, these sparks can travel up for miles, but I think it should be 15 feet from property line. So that's 30 feet from any structure. So if you have a structure, it must be 15 feet from the property line and the other person. That way it gives you 30 feet between you. But that isn't the case in California because land is so expensive. I mean, you're talking people, the average home in LA County is $1 million home. It's terrible. It's terrible. Wow. And so when you see these $2 and $3 million homes at the beach in Malibu, when the fire comes roaring down the hillside and the winds blow from east to west, and they're called Santa Ana winds because they're hot winds from the desert. And when they blow like a hurricane, like the hurricanes off Florida and Alabama, North Carolina, those hurricanes there, those same winds fanned a fire. So how did you get involved in CPS? What happened with you?
The whole thing is actually a huge, long story.
Well, I got plenty of time. I have right now 30 minutes, and I'm on twice a day, 15 months. So if you got something you talk to for 15 months, that'd be great. I can't believe I've talked for 15 months. That is amazing to me. 14 shows a week.
Well, I've actually been watching your few of your shows. My friend told me about you because of what I'm going through, and I mean it's honestly some of the things that are going on. Like I try to tell my family and friends, explain to them, and half the time they don't even want to believe me. I don't think, just because it's so crazy and it's so stressful. I've actually been put on pills for depression and everything since this all started. I have a 5-year-old boy and a 2-year-old little boy. And
do they have a father?
I've actually yes, my husband.
You guys are married
for 7 years, and we're still together.
Good. Does he work?
Right now, at the moment, no, he does not. He actually has to have surgery for a hernia.
Oh, so. Good grief! That's terrible. That's very painful. So does that mean you have to work too?
No, I haven't worked since whenever I got pregnant with my 2-year-old. I stayed really bad sick the whole time. I was actually in ICU for a few times during my pregnancy. It just didn't agree with me.
Okay.
But, and then after I had him, I just started, just stayed there with the boys for the most part. And I didn't want to let anyone. I wanted to be a mom. You know what I mean? I love being a mom, and I love my kids. And I don't have a whole lot of family, anyways. Okay. So me and my husband both are recovering addicts, we've been going to a treatment center for 7 years. Actually, that's where we met.
Okay.
And that's not like that's see, whenever this all started, his part of his family, okay, his dad passed away, and part of his family kind of went into this money hungry. It's sad whenever people die, how the family and friends will react. Everybody's out for something, it seems like. And I told everyone, I don't care about anything. I just want my kids and want to be left alone.
Mm-hmm.
But that wasn't the case.
Did a lay person or professional call in, or do you know who called in on you?
We don't know. Well, we do. We pretty much know exactly who it was. And it was actually, that's the problem. They called 3 different times in one day. Wow. And yeah. And because of that, me and my husband, we actually own a house in Deputy, Indiana. And we had not been staying there. We was staying with a friend of mine because she had surgery, and so we was helping her out. Well, anyways, we whenever we went to go back to our house, someone had broke in and ransacked the place pretty bad. And
oh boy, was that a bad neighborhood that your house was in, or?
Actually, no. The bad thing is, it's actually a really good neighborhood. So why our house? We kind of and there we think we know who done that as well, and they are actually sitting in jail right now for another robbery that they committed. So we're pretty much sure who did it.
Yeah. That's, it's a really sick world when people take advantage of others. We come here to live, or we're born here in the United States, and we want to because it's supposed to be a democratic society. It's supposed to be a safe society, and we're supposed to have a government that's for the people. And it seems like a lot of the politicians, a lot of government has gone rogue. What I mean, it's gone bad. And
absolutely,
I'm pretty sure that the child protection system in Indiana is probably not a good one, is it?
No, it's horrible. They are so corrupt. We even spoke with a man who he used to work for them, and now he works for another agency that does like the home-based services and stuff.
Okay.
But he said that he would never work for CPS again because he saw the belly of the beast from the inside. And he said that there was cases against them for taking kids when they weren't supposed to, for falsifying drug screens, for not returning kids when they were supposed to. And my husband had even warned me about this stuff beforehand, and I always told him, I'm like, well, if we're not doing anything wrong, they can't do anything. Why would they do anything? We're good parents, and and that.
Well, how corrupt our society is and our government is. I mean, I've never seen, and I've had 9 presidents. When I'm old. So my first president was Truman. Truman was my first president. So from Truman to Eisenhower to Kennedy and Nixon and Johnson and Ford, Carter and Reagan. And maybe I forgot a president or 2 there. We got the Bushes, both Bushes, and Obama and Trump. And now we got Trump again. The difference between Trump and every other president that I know of is he's not a politician. He doesn't do politics when he's not the president. He was not a governor. He's not a senator. He has no allegiance to people. He can't be bought. He's going to take on the job of president at 0 salary, meaning he doesn't want to be paid. He doesn't.
Yeah.
I mean, there are a lot of people that are courting him in Florida, but maybe he'll make changes, and maybe things that he's talked about. He's talked about cleaning up government waste, but there's so much corruptness. I want to see changes made in the child protection system. You know, hardworking people that even if they have a hiccup or two, if they did something wrong, it can be corrected. It can correct. It's not the end of the world. But boy, if you haven't done anything wrong, in my case, I haven't done anything wrong, but because of my in-laws, my wife's family called in once a week for 5 years of a different story that wasn't true, you know, they're going to believe the truth. You see, the problem with CPS that you should be innocent until you're proven guilty. You should be innocent till you're proven guilty. They don't do it that way. When they hear an incident, you're guilty. Then they want to do investigation. They want to take you to court. There should be a settlement conference before anything happens. If CPS finds out or hears a report that say you're feeding your child, let's say you're feeding your child poison, okay? Well, you're going to investigate that. And you're going to meet with the parents and the people investigating. But instead, they don't do that. Right away, they want to take your child. They want to talk to you. They want to exercise their rights, whether they have those rights or not. And they want to fabricate stories. Because why? They have a big money to feed. They have money to feed. So what did CPS accuse you of you and your husband doing to your children, your 4-year-old and your 10-year-old?
So, family members had called in. Okay, so my husband's father, like I said, he had passed away, and his mother, she had a double lung transplant 7 years ago, and she has osteoporosis real bad. Well, after he passed away, and her and his father actually, they had adopted he has 2 older children that are 10 and 11, and he had actually let his mom and dad adopt them years ago because it was the same county of CPS, and he was dealing with them then. And he said, and I read the paperwork then, and I even thought to myself, I'm like, well, you know, maybe he was telling me that he was like, this is not even how it was. I kind of wasn't like, Travis, now why would they lie about stuff like that, you know? But he was like, I know I had to get them out of my life. I had to let my parents adopt my kids. Well, anyways, when his dad passed away, you know, because he's actually, you know, he stays fully in their lives and everything. He's a good dad with them. And with our 2, we are good. We're great. I love being a mom. It's everything to me. Anyways, his mom broke her back after his dad passed away. And like I said, our house was in total disarray. So his mom asked us if we would come stay and help her out, and then it would also help us out. So we had not even been over at her house for 2 days. 2 days. No one had been over there and seen us. It was just him and I and his mom and all the kids, you know. And and then his aunt come in there. And one day, while his mom was at the doctor, and she said, told my husband, your mom doesn't want you here, and get all your guys' stuff and let's go. I'll take you wherever you want to go and drop you off, but she don't want you here.
Who said that?
Who said that?
His aunt,
the one that had all this done, that started all this. And
now,
so
why is the aunt?
Said,
why is the aunt? Yeah, I was going to say, why is the aunt involved? What is her motive for her personal gain she's going to get?
Again, money hungry. That I mean, she they all know that his mother is now being cared for by hospice. She's getting ready, she's not going to be around much longer. And so his aunt and his brother, they're trying to get the land and the money, because there's a little bit of money and a little bit of land or whatever, and that's all it amounts to, is they're trying to get that. And since Travis is the oldest child, he would have been, he'd have been the first to inherit or whatever. So, anyways.
They don't believe in working for money? They don't believe in working for money?
I really, truly, I think that there isn't enough money to suffice that lady.
Wow. I'm just, it surprises money, because money is the greed of all evil. It's like,
absolutely.
It really controls people. And that's what CPS has found out. It's $1 trillion business for them. And they get incentives on top of the money they get. I mean, my children, when they were taken or stolen or put into foster care, they were getting $20,000 a month from the state, who, again, gets money from the federal government at no what do you call it? There's no watchdog. They're not transparent. If the state needs money, all they do is tell the federal government, I need $10 million. The federal government does not ask why or anything. It's just like I opened my story this morning, telling how the U.S. Navy put an invoice in for a toilet seat for $15,000. Now, I'm not talking about the toilet seat in a jet airplane. I'm talking about the toilet seat you and I sit on. And so the government has no control over the money when they're stupid. And then the money comes in, but $20,000 per child per month is too much. I had 3 children that were stolen from me, and they were getting $60,000. That's the basic. Then they get bonus and incentives. With President Clinton signing that law in 1994, a lot of people don't know about it. It was saying that, hey, CPS, if you have the kid adopted, we'll give you a bonus for that. If you spend all your time reunifying that family, we'll give you Zippo. And so that's what our federal government has done. They've hurt the CPS system. They've hurt the child protection system. And what I mean by CPS, I mean all the agencies. I don't know what it's called in Indiana, but it's all the agencies in all the counties of Indiana. And it's sad. It's sad because, see, we as a people, we actually talk about families. Most of the people in the United States wants a family. When they go to elementary school or high school, they somehow think about a family and their idea of a family. And there's nothing wrong with that. Maybe they didn't have brothers and sisters. They want to have children. Or maybe they had brothers and sisters. But anyway, our focus is to have a family. And we go out there and try to do menial jobs. I mean, I'm sad to tell you that the United States is a third world country. Why? The definition of a third world country is they have no middle class. Either the rich or poor. I was appalled to hear that firemen are making such little money fighting the fires. Now, I know the cost of living in Indiana is probably a little different. I mean, I don't think your average cost of a home is $1 million. I don't think, are you paying $5 for a gallon of milk, $3 for a loaf of bread, $10 for 18 eggs? Well, that's what it costs right now in California. So it's really kind of hard. So now tell me, did they come knocking at your door? Or how did your aunt called in on you? So how did CPS approach you?
Yeah. So she, well, like I said, she told us to leave that day. And Travis said, well, I'm not leaving until my mom tells me to leave. So he called his mom. And his mom said she had not said that. She said, I did not say that. Don't worry, I'm on my way home right now. And so then at that time, I guess Caroline, the aunt, she had texted his mom And whenever she didn't get the response that she wanted, she said "F this" and walked out the door and slammed it. Well, then a couple hours later, came the first CPS person knocking, and my husband's mother, of course, did the thing that most people do. They say, like me, if I'm not doing anything wrong, I think, oh, why shouldn't I be open the front door? But anyways, she opened the door and she talked to him and she let the kids talk to him and everything. But the report was that my husband and I was walking around there and using drugs, and that we had been told to leave and was refusing to leave. Well, his mother, she told him no. I'm around them all the time. I pretty much know. I've seen how my son was before when he was on drugs, and he seems like he's not now. And I definitely didn't tell them to leave, so that's not right. Well, CPS, the investigator, he talked to the oldest two children, and it was so crazy.
What did the children say? What did the children say?
Well, we couldn't hear everything that was said because they talked where, took them in private, and Miss Clarissa had given them the okay to talk to them, and the oldest two, okay, so my husband takes medication that gets delivered in the mail through UPS in a plastic package, Well, we had went over to our house to get his medicine, and his oldest son, he told him that, and they said that he told them that his dad went to pick up a baggie of pills, and our son, well, his son, he said, Dad, I didn't say it like that. I said that you just went to go get your medicine in a bag, in a bag. But anyways, and then I had gotten a cigarette. I bummed a cigarette from a lady in a parking lot, and we had all the kids in the truck. And this was just just a random lady that I seen, and I didn't even know her at all. And I walked over and I got a cigarette from her. And whenever I handed one to my husband, well, the kids said that I had handed something in the truck, but they didn't know what it was. And so the CPS guy says, well, that they believe that it could have been syringes. And here's the thing. Again, my husband and I used years and years ago. We have been good for 7 years. 7 years.
Okay.
And have not had any problems whatsoever until all of this. And I'm happy with my recovery. I'm proud of where I'm at with that. You know what I mean?
Yes, I
and
do.
the whole ordeal has been crappy, anyways. And just for that alone, though, that was literally not much more to it than that there. And my husband and I, we had been told, do not submit to a drug screen. The guy that had worked for CPS before, he said, don't ever submit to a drug screen. So my husband said,
well, let me interject something. I hear your husband in the background talking, which is great. And if he wants to participate, he can. But let me tell you something that a lot of people don't know. You weren't ever trained in how to deal with CPS. You do not know how to talk to CPS. And one of my goals of my show is to help all you listeners how to deal with CPS. And the first step you have to learn to do with CPS is not to talk to them, because everything you say will be used against you. Also, your home is your castle. You don't allow people in your home that you don't know. If when someone wants to come knocking at your door, you give them a special knock or a special ring that they use to know it's a family member. Otherwise, don't answer the door, because nothing but horrible things happen when you answer the door. People are being shot every day by answering the door. And I'm afraid it's sad, because point blank, these people are being killed. There was a gentleman in Gainesville, Florida, in May 3rd of 2024 that was talking to his fiance on FaceTime. And the sheriff from Gainesville, Florida, had a mistaken apartment for domestic violence. And so when the guy opened the door, the sheriff just took the gun and fired 5 shots, point blank at his chest. The guy collapsed and died talking to his fiance on FaceTime. So if that doesn't send a picture, and yes, the guy was black, by the way, and I think the sheriff had something about blacks. But anyway, if that doesn't paint a picture about not opening the door, all you have to do is, recently we had a lady that was arguing with the sheriff who was in her house. She let him in, and she was doing the dishes, and he took his gun and point blank shot the lady 5 times in the face. And his deputy said, "Should I get the first aid kit?" And the deputy asked the sheriff, "Should I get the first aid kit?" He says, "Don't bother, she's dead." And that lady, whatever people do, they should never allow policemen. A lot of people have nothing to hide. And I know they're trying to be honest. My problem is I let a policeman tell me what to do. I let social workers tell me what to do. I should never talk to them. The very first thing you should do is always get an attorney. But a lot of you says, "I can't afford an attorney." Well, I had to sell my home to hire an attorney. I did a quick sell, and I lost my home. I worked for 45 years. And, I had to hire an attorney, because without an attorney, you are going to be hung by CPS. They don't want to help you. They want to get your child automatically into foster care. Now, did that home visit, did they immediately take your children?
Yes.
And what danger did they say the kids? What danger did they say the kids were in when they picked up the children?
They just said that they believed us. They believed us to be under the influence of drugs, and that even though we was in a good house, but even his mother was there, and there had been no report on her, but he said, well, she's not in good enough health to care for him properly. So he took all 4 of the kids. He actually took the oldest 2 that was adopted by her, and he took our 2. And like I said, my kids are radiant, happy, healthy, and everything. And so immediately I called my dad and I told him what was going on, and he come and got my kids. And they're actually they've been placed in his care, because I was trying to make sure that they didn't put them in any kind of foster home or anything, at least. And at least it was somewhere where they kind of knew. I mean, my kids, up until this point, my kids have never been away from home. You know what I mean? They just a couple hours at a time. And anyways, so but my husband tells the cop, he says, "I don't understand that. So you guys CPS can just come in my home just because somebody calls and tells them that I'm doing something, that I'm doing drugs, and they can just come in my home and take my kids?"
No, the answer to your question is no, and you don't have to open the door to do that. You have to know what the laws are. The problem is most people are not given to. I wish there's more life skills given to people when they go through elementary school, when they go through middle school, and when they go through high school. And even if they go on to college, there should always be a semester or a quarter of life skills. And one of the life skills that people need to be aware of is the child protection system, how it operates, what it goes after. There are so many things that if you go to the internet, that is so full of things that protect you. There's all these laws. I talk about, Bill Clinton in 1994 went against the 1980 Congress that passed the first Comprehensive Federal Child Protection Service Act, the Adoption Assistance and Child Welfare Act of 1980. So, even our government is blind to a lot of things. There are 5 criteria that CPS needs to register report, and they don't follow it. There has to be identity and location. Is there enough information known about the identity and location of the potential abused child to permit an investigation? Second, is the child under the age of 18? Third, is the jurisdiction, are they in the right area the CPS is? The jurisdiction. And then there has to be the persons are legally and the allegation of abuse. It's so terrible. There is a hotline in every county, every state, like in yours. And your aunt used it. Your aunt called in on the hotline, probably, and reported. But those are lay people. They're not trained. The professionals are trained, like your policemen, your firemen, your teachers, your nurses, your doctors. Those kinds of people are trained to recognize abuse and neglect.
Yeah.
But I don't think.
The guy.
Go ahead.
Sorry.
That's all right.
I was just gonna say, and see, he had told us that that he had received three calls, and I guess it was probably like within a matter of a couple of hours, and he even brought the police with him when he came out there, and my husband said, you don't have any right to take it. They can't. He asked the cop. He said, they can just come into my home and take my kids, and the cop said, well, they have different laws than we do.
Well, here's the problem. 99% of the people in the United States know nothing about child protection system. They don't know the laws. And that's the advantage that this agency is so corrupt, has taken advantage of the common lay people. I mean, even the guy you said that worked for CPS will never work for them again. He found out what they're like. All I have to do is talk about the case in 2022 of 8 female white social workers that decided to purchase pink t-shirts. And instead of being breast cancer awareness, instead they stenciled on the front, they are professional child kidnappers. And on the back, they put, parents, do you know where your kids are? And they paraded around in front of all the big department stores and all the big stores. I mean, I'm talking about Costco, Kmart, Walmart, Best Buys, Target, Sears, Penny, May Company, any big store. And they did a message. Well, they were caught right away. They were fired, and they fired the director, the CPS director too in Prescott. They called their CPS Department of Children's Services. They were gone, but that only left one worker left to handle all the problems in CPS and Prescott. So it hurt two kinds of people. Yes, they got rid of the bad thinking social workers and the director didn't see that. He should have been, and so he was terminated, but it left them with no protection. There's one guy that had to handle the phone calls, the investigations, and the protected children from neglect and abuse. And that was a small city in Prescott, Arizona. And so that happened in 2022. So that's the kind of mentality you have out there of these social workers.
Yeah.
I mean, it's
yeah, absolutely. I was gonna the man that come to investigate Mr. Wright, he was very wrong. He actually, like I said, I don't know. I got a little aggravated with him. I mean, I'm not even gonna lie. Whenever whenever you're taking my kids, of course, I ended up getting very, very aggravated.
Was there any physical
I
abuse? Was there any physical abuse to your children? Was there any physical abuse to your children?
Oh, absolutely not.
So there's not there. Was there any sexual abuse to your children?
No, absolutely not.
Okay. Had the child been harmed or impaired or in imminent danger of harm or impairment? That means, are they in imminent danger? Okay. Has the person...
They said that they was in imminent danger of being around us. And say it. And
but were you smoking were you shooting drugs or smoking at the time the investigation was happening?
No.
It's called hearsay. It's hearsay. They have to catch the act. For instance, if a guy robs a bank and he's sitting in his car a block away from the bank with a bag full of money, they can't prove that he robbed the bank. They have to go check the video camera to see if he matches the description. So the child protection guy has to prove it. And what they should do is, first off, when they're doing the investigation, have a settlement conference. They should stress these are the concerns. Are you parents doing drugs when the kids are around? Are you parents on drugs when you're taking care of your kids? Those are things, you can discuss. But I wouldn't discuss that without an attorney, because there's the mistake. People open their hearts out to social workers. You did too. You open up your heart out and you wanted to be honest with them. I did the same thing. And honesty did not seem to want to work. But I feel for you. We've been talking for a good half an hour. My show is over at 11 o'clock. I'm already over by 7 minutes. And I don't mind talking to you, but I want you to know this. It doesn't stop here. I'm on again at 7 o'clock tonight. I'd love to talk to you some more. I'm on again tomorrow at 10 o'clock and again at 7 o'clock. Those are Pacific times. That's the West Coast of California.
Okay.
I think Indiana is 3 hours ahead of me. Aren't you on East Coast time? Or are you on?
Yeah, we're at 2 o'clock now. So.
Okay, if you're 2 o'clock now, you're 3 hours ahead of me. So I would encourage you to call back and we can finish this discussion. You have my number. Now, another thing you and your husband should know is that by you talking about your case, you're now eligible to speak to a real attorney, a dependency juvenile family law attorney. Those are the areas you got to have an attorney in. They have to be in juvenile law, in family law, in dependency law. But Mr. Davis of the arrangement says anybody that calls in, Bob, or he says anybody that's a guest in your show, I will talk to him for free for 15 minutes about how to navigate and how to help at your case. And there are many of my listeners, if you listen to my show, that have talked to Mr. Davis. And they said they were richly rewarded. They went to the case. They made their public defender work for them. They threatened them with negligence, or threaten them that they will call the bar on them. So if you have to use a court-appointed attorney or a public defender, so be it. But just be forewarned that they are case loaded, 30 more cases. They will not fight for your case. You got to kick them in the seat of the pants.
Right.
You got to keep kicking them in the seat of the pants. And if they don't want to cooperate, tell them that fine. I will sue you for negligence and I'll report you to the state bar. And that is taken seriously by the state bar. They'll lose their law, they'll lose their license. Every lawyer has a license. But you need to fight back and you need to have a lawyer present. Do not talk to social workers alone. Do not let them in your home. Do not let them take your child. They need to have a warrant. They need to have a warrant. Too many social workers are lazy. And they said, oh, here's an easy one to make money. These people don't know anything. These people are poor. Being poor is not a crime. Being homeless is not a crime. You can raise children being homeless. You can raise children who are poor. Social services has to reach out and help you with food and shelter and clothing, transportation, education, and medical, and get a job. And if you can't work, there's other ways you can get needs. There's disability you can get from Social Security. So there are other ways that you can get needs there, but it should not be that way. So I really encourage you to text your name, your phone number, and your email to me, and I'll set you up a meeting with Mr. Davis. I will contact my show producer, Grace, and she will set up a time where you'll speak to him for 15 minutes. He's a real attorney. He's a pit bull. He's one of the best attorneys in the United States. And he's kind. He's soft-spoken. He will help you. He'll tell you how to navigate, and he will talk to you and try to help you. All you have to do is when you talk to him, tell him that Bob Pace sent you, and he'll know the connection, and he will open up and tell you. He gives a lot of his free time to people with 15 minutes of consultation. So just text us. The number you call me, text me your name, your phone number, and your email. And you can have 15 minutes, but also you can call back and continue your story where you left off with your 4 and 10-year-old, and how they're accusing you guys doing drugs. I know your husband was trying to help, and it's great. I'm glad he's in the background. And I know that you two people have one good thing going for you. You have a marriage that's working for you. You have love, and you have love for your children. You need to have your children getting back. So with that being said, I need to sign off on my show and tell everyone goodbye. You guys are part of my family now, so I expect to see you again. I have, a lot of big family here, but I'm here to help. I'm here to try to give advice.
Thank you.
And I have a good 60 years of advice I can give you. I've been lots of things I can try to help you out there. But again, thank you for calling in from Indiana. And I want all the listeners out there is don't give up. Keep fighting for your kids. There is a way. There is a way, and we will get your children back. God bless you all. There'll be a brief message from my attorney who will talk about his school, other things he does. Take notes, and I'll see you tonight at 7 p.m. Pacific Standard Time. This is Bob Pace signing off.
Feeling lost in the maze of CPS? Desperate to get your child back? You're not alone. Countless parents face the heart-wrenching reality of family separation. The legal system can be overwhelming, but there's hope.
Now, here's the key. Babe, that's how you win a 6-month hearing.
Thank you.
If you do all of those things, you're going to blow your social worker's mind, you're going to blow your attorney's mind, and you're going to blow away the judge.
With attorney Vincent W. Davis, a dedicated legal expert with 39 years of experience, committed to helping families like yours. Join his weekly live Q&A on Zoom, where you can ask your burning questions about CPS cases. Get the knowledge and strategies you need to fight for your child's return.
Alrighty, good evening everyone. This is a question and answer session for school, SKOOL, and this is the CPS school.
Are you ready to take control of your family's future? Join our school community for free to access weekly live Q&A sessions, or participate as a one-time guest. Don't let fear hold you back. Take the first step towards reuniting your family. Join us now.